Have you ever looked at someone driving a brand new truck and wondered how they afford it, even though they complain about gas prices and groceries? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't afford their cars. They reorganize their entire lives around them. One monthly payment quietly starts dictating where they live, how they eat, whether they save, and how long they stay stuck. Savings get pushed aside, retirement gets delayed, and side hustles pop up, not to build wealth, but just to keep the car. And the craziest part? It all feels normal. No alarms go off, no red flags, just a slow trade of future freedom for a shiny vehicle that loses value every day. That's the car payment trap nobody talks about. Hello, I'm Sid, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, behavior, and the quiet financial decisions that shape our lives far more than we realize. Today I want to talk about something almost everyone sees, but very few people actually question: the car payment trap nobody talks about. Have you ever been driving down the road and suddenly found yourself behind a brand new pickup truck that costs more than most people's houses? You know the one. Chrome everywhere, massive wheels, leather seats that probably cost more than your monthly rent, and a payment that would make a mortgage lender flinch. And here's the part that really messes with your head. The person driving it probably doesn't make more money than you do. In fact, they might make less. So what's really going on here? Because when you start looking at the numbers, things stop making sense very quickly. The average new car payment today is over $700 a month. That's not for a luxury sports car or some exotic import. That's the average. For trucks and SUVs, which have basically become the default choice, payments of $900, $1,000, even $1,200 a month are shockingly common. And people are locking themselves into those payments for 6, 7, sometimes 8 years. That's not transportation anymore. That's a long-term financial commitment that rivals rent or a mortgage. And before anyone says, well, people just earn more now, let's be honest. Wages have gone up, sure, but not even close to fast enough to justify these numbers using any traditional financial logic. Most of the people signing these loans aren't wealthy. They're teachers, nurses, mechanics, office workers, retail employees, regular people with regular incomes. They're not secretly rich. They're just participating in a system that makes impossible payments feel normal. One of the biggest in that system is the length of modern car loans. There was a time when 3 or 4 years was standard. Now 6 and 7 years are normal, and 8-year loans barely raise an eyebrow. Some lenders even offer 10-year car loans, which honestly sounds like satire. The math works in the dealer's favor. Stretch the loan long enough, and almost any vehicle can be made to fit into a monthly payment. A truck that would cost $1,500 a month over 4 years suddenly looks reasonable at $900 spread over 8. Buyers fixate on that monthly number and stop thinking about the total cost. What they don't fully absorb is that extending the loan doesn't make the car cheaper. It makes it dramatically more expensive. Thousands, sometimes tens of thousands more, paid purely for the illusion of affordability. And while the loan balance crawls down slowly, the vehicle's value drops fast. 5 or 6 years in, many people owe more than the car is worth. They're upside down, trapped in negative equity, unable to sell or trade without bringing cash to the table. That's where the trade-in cycle kicks in. Someone gets bored with the car, or needs repairs they can't afford, or just wants something new. The dealer rolls the remaining balance into a new loan on a more expensive vehicle. Now they're paying for a car they no longer own, plus the new one. This cycle can repeat for years. Payments keep getting bigger, loan balances keep growing, and somehow it feels normal, even responsible, because everyone else is doing it too. Then there's the psychological side, which might be the most powerful part of all. Cars aren't sold as transportation anymore. They're sold as identity. Your vehicle is framed as proof of success, hard work, reliability, and status. Advertising doesn't show cars commuting to work or sitting in traffic. It shows them conquering mountains, towing dreams, living a life of freedom and respect. So when someone signs up for a massive payment, it doesn't feel like debt. It feels like a reward, like investing in themselves. Once that emotional connection forms, logic struggles to compete. Suggesting a cheaper car doesn't sound like financial advice, it sounds like an insult. Driving something modest feels like admitting failure, even if the expensive vehicle is quietly suffocating the rest of their financial life. To make the payments work, people start rearranging everything else. They downsize apartments, delay moving out, skip vacations, cut food budgets, avoid savings, and postpone long-term goals. Some take second jobs just to support their vehicle, sometimes using that same vehicle to earn the money to pay for itself. Others dip into retirement accounts, borrow from their future, or rely on credit cards to cover insurance, fuel, and repairs. High-interest debt quietly props up a payment that was never truly affordable in the first place. And the costs don't stop at the loan. Insurance on expensive vehicles can easily run $200 to $500 a month for households with multiple cars. Fuel costs for large trucks can rival what entire car payments used to be. Maintenance on modern vehicles is brutal. A simple repair can wipe out months of savings. Many people don't have emergency funds left because the car consumed them. When you finally run the real numbers, the picture gets uncomfortable fast. Over 7 years, a single vehicle can quietly cost well over $100,000 when you factor in payments, insurance, fuel, and maintenance. And at the end of it all, you're left with something worth a fraction of what you paid. That's not building a life. That's trading future freedom for temporary comfort and social approval. What makes this trap so effective is that it doesn't feel like a mistake while you're in it. It feels justified, earned, normal. But normal doesn't mean healthy, and common doesn't mean wise. The system is designed to keep attention on monthly payments, emotions, and short-term satisfaction, while quietly pushing long-term consequences out of sight. So the next time you see a vehicle that looks wildly out of place financially, remember this: most people aren't affording these cars. They're financing them with future sacrifices they haven't felt yet. And that boring, reliable car sitting in your driveway might not impress strangers, but it might be doing something far more valuable. It might be buying you peace, options, and a future that isn't held hostage by a payment. Extended car loans don't actually make vehicles affordable, they just make the pain harder to see. When someone signs up for a 6, 7, or 8-year car loan, what they're really doing is stretching the cost thin enough that it doesn't immediately trigger alarm bells. The monthly payment looks reasonable, maybe even comfortable, especially when compared to rent or other major bills. That single number becomes the focus, and once it feels manageable, the decision feels justified. But affordability isn't about whether you can survive the payment this month. It's about whether the decision strengthens or weakens your financial position over time. When loan terms were shorter, the real price of a car was harder to hide. A $60,000 vehicle on a 4-year loan produced a payment that forced an honest conversation with reality. Most people would instantly recognize that the car was out of reach. By extending the loan to 7 or 8 years, that same vehicle suddenly looks attainable. Nothing about the car changed. The price didn't drop. Income didn't rise. The only thing that changed was how long the buyer agreed to stay in debt. Time becomes the tool that disguises excess. What most buyers don't fully process is how much extra they pay for that illusion. Interest accumulates slowly but relentlessly over long loan terms. Even a modest interest rate adds thousands of dollars to the final cost. And because the loan lasts so long, borrowers are paying interest during years when the vehicle is rapidly losing value. The car feels new and exciting at first, but depreciation doesn't care about emotions. Within a few years, the vehicle can lose a massive portion of its value while the loan balance barely moves. This is how people end up owing far more than the car is worth, even after making payments faithfully every month. That gap between what is owed and what the car is worth is where the trap tightens. Negative equity doesn't feel dangerous at first because nothing seems broken. The car still runs. The payment still clears. But it quietly removes flexibility. Selling becomes nearly impossible without bringing cash to the table. Trading the car requires rolling that debt into the next loan. The borrower loses the ability to change course without financial pain. What started as a simple purchase turns into a long-term commitment with very few exits. Extended loan terms also normalize constant debt. Instead of a car being something you buy, pay off, and enjoy for years without payments, it becomes a permanent bill. By the time the loan is halfway done, many people are already thinking about their next vehicle. The idea of going without a car payment feels uncomfortable, even unnatural. Debt becomes the default setting, not a temporary tool. This mindset makes it easier to justify rolling balances forward and staying locked into payments indefinitely. Another hidden cost of extended loans is how they distort financial decision-making. Because the monthly payment is lower, buyers often feel encouraged to buy more car than they actually need. Bigger engines, higher trim levels, luxury features, and oversized vehicles all feel acceptable because the payment only increases slightly when stretched across many years. That small monthly difference masks a massive long-term cost. People don't feel like they're making an extreme choice, but the numbers say otherwise. Extended loans also shift risk onto the buyer. The longer the loan, the greater the chance that life will change before it's paid off. Job loss, income reduction, medical expenses, or family changes can turn a once manageable payment into a serious burden. Because the loan balance remains high for so long, selling the car during a difficult period often makes the situation worse, not better. Instead of being a flexible asset, the vehicle becomes an anchor. Perhaps the most dangerous part is that extended loans make financial stress invisible. From the outside, everything looks fine. The car is new, the payment is being made. There's no immediate crisis. But behind the scenes, savings shrink. Emergency funds disappear, and long-term goals get pushed aside. Money that could be building security or freedom is locked into a depreciating asset for nearly a decade. The cost isn't just financial, it's opportunity. Every dollar tied up in an extended car loan is a dollar that can't work elsewhere. In the end, extended car loans don't solve the problem of expensive vehicles. They delay the consequences. They allow people to buy things today that tomorrow's income will struggle to support. The payment may feel affordable, but the long-term impact quietly erodes flexibility, resilience, and financial independence. The trap isn't the car itself. It's the belief that stretching time can turn something unaffordable into something wise. When car payments grow large, they don't just affect transportation choices, they begin to reshape a person's entire financial life. What starts as a single monthly bill slowly crowds out everything else. Savings, investing, flexibility, and even basic comfort are adjusted downward to accommodate the car, and over time, this becomes the new normal. The vehicle moves from being a tool that supports life to a priority that life is built around. This shift happens quietly, without dramatic moments, which is why so many people don't realize what they've given up until years have passed. One of the first casualties is saving. When a large portion of take-home pay is committed to a car, saving becomes something that happens later. Emergency funds shrink or never fully form. Retirement contributions are reduced or paused. Money that should be working for the future is instead tied to a depreciating asset. Because the car is visible and immediate while savings are abstract and distant, the car almost always wins that competition. People tell themselves they'll catch up once the loan is paid off, but by then another vehicle often replaces it, and the cycle continues. Large car payments also delay major life milestones. People stay in apartments longer than planned, postpone buying homes, or take on roommates simply to make the numbers work. Housing decisions, which typically have long-term financial implications, are made around a short-term depreciating asset. Instead of housing supporting stability and growth, it becomes a variable adjusted to protect the car payment. This inversion quietly erodes wealth-building potential, especially over many years. To keep up, many people start trimming what they consider optional spending. Vacations disappear. Dining out becomes rare. Hobbies and experiences get postponed indefinitely. While this might sound responsible on the surface, it often creates a strange imbalance. People live constrained, joyless financial lives while driving something that symbolizes freedom and success. The sacrifice doesn't feel proportional, but it's rationalized as temporary, even when it stretches across most of a decade. When trimming isn't enough, income has to increase. Second jobs, side gigs, and overtime become common, not to accelerate progress or build opportunity, but simply to maintain the status quo. In many cases, the car itself becomes part of the income strategy. People drive for rideshare companies, deliver food, or take on freelance work just to support the vehicle they already own. The car transforms from a convenience into an obligation, something that must constantly justify its existence by earning money. As pressure builds, people often turn to debt to create breathing room. Credit cards absorb fuel, maintenance, insurance, and unexpected repairs. Personal loans cover down payments or rollovers from previous vehicles. Retirement accounts are borrowed against or cashed out early. Each of these choices provides short-term relief while quietly damaging long-term stability. High-interest debt piles on top of an already heavy obligation, and the financial structure becomes fragile, vulnerable to even minor disruptions. What makes this especially dangerous is how normal it feels. Because car payments are socially accepted, even expected, few people question the trade-offs. Someone spending a quarter or more of their income on transportation rarely raises concern, while far smaller spending habits in other categories would be labeled reckless. The cultural narrative frames expensive vehicles as rewards for hard work, not liabilities that siphon off future options. This normalization makes it easier to sacrifice important goals without fully acknowledging the cost. Over time, priorities subtly shift. Financial success becomes defined not by net worth, savings, or security, but by the ability to keep making payments. People feel accomplished when they juggle multiple car loans successfully, even if they're not moving forward financially. Paying off one vehicle often leads directly into financing another, creating the illusion of progress without actual improvement. The focus stays on cash flow, not wealth. The long-term impact is profound. Money that could have compounded through investing is consumed by depreciation. Flexibility disappears. Career choices, location decisions, and lifestyle options are constrained by the need to maintain a certain level of income. The car payment becomes a fixed requirement that everything else must support. Instead of money serving life, life begins serving the payment. Perhaps the most painful part is that many people don't realize how much power they've surrendered. They feel stressed, overworked, and financially stuck, but rarely connect that feeling to the vehicle sitting in their driveway. The cost isn't just the payment, it's the years of missed opportunity, the delayed freedom, and the constant pressure to keep earning just enough to stay afloat. A single monthly decision quietly reshapes an entire financial future, not through catastrophe, but through slow, normalized sacrifice.